I'm alive. I'm alive. Because last time I checked, wait. Yep, I'm still black. So supposedly I'm supposed to be dead because black people are just dying in droves from the Rona. So, and that's what black people were calling it, the Rona. So my cousin, and I think we should talk to all the black people in the US and make a pact and say if the crackheads are still alive in 15 days, we're all going outside. As we call bullshit, okay? I'm totally kidding. Anyway, yeah, I'm so sick of these people like trying to use black people as a scapegoat. It's like they only care about us when it's like good for them, right? They don't care about like, you know, all the gang violence in the neighborhood. They don't care about like, you know, all the abortions. They don't care about the homeless problem. They don't care about, you know, schooling and stuff, but only when it's good for them, only when it makes them look good, you know? So now all of a sudden it's like, oh, black people are being hit the hardest. Well, maybe because we have a lot of obesity and diabetes in our community, and it's, you know, and people that are dying of the Rona, a lot of them have obese or they have diabetes, stuff like that. Maybe, but now you guys care? Yeah, now you care. You cared today, you cared yesterday, you cared yesterday. I'm over it. I'm so over it. Now you wanna go to Africa and you wanna use your like poisonous, evil, you know, nanoparticle chip vaccine on the African population. I'm so glad that the I think it was the Prime Minister of Uganda was like, no, we're not your guinea pigs. I was like, that's right, we're not. Nobody is, but they just love to go to Africa and they just love to poke and prod people and, you know, do all kinds of experiments on them. There's a guy named Nkuba. Oh God, Nkuba? Oh God, I'm gonna have to find it. Anyway, this is years ago, and he was talking about how a lot of people were getting damaged from the polio vaccine in Uganda, and a lot of people were resisting, and they were vaccinating the Africans against their will. They were actually going into the villages at night when people were sleeping and mass, like doing forced vaccination. This was years ago. So God knows what they're doing now. And now I'm just starting to look into this guy named Tedros, and I don't know how to say his name. Anyway, looks like he's like a war criminal, you know, hooked up to the WHO, a part of helping with mass genocide, and he's black, okay? So just because, you know, it's not a black-white thing, it's an elitist thing. Right? Because they'll use other black people, and then, you know, other black people are like, oh, it's the white man. But, you know, your own people will sell you out too, okay? Your own people will sell you out too. I went to a debate in New York in December against, you know, black people that were very pro-vaccine, you know, and but they were supposed to be very pro-black. I'm like, how are you pro-black and pro-vaccine? But whatever, okay? So it's about good and evil, right? This is a spiritual war. So, I mean, the color of your skin doesn't matter. It's about, you know, people that will sell their souls for money and for power, and people that won't. That's all it comes down to. It's just that simple, okay? I was looking at this guy. His name is George something. I don't really know. I mean, I thought what he said was good. You know, it was a good few sound bites if people want to like look into some of the stuff that he was saying. I'll put his link below the video too. He was just basically talking about how corrupt Anthony Fauci is and how he's linked with Tedros. Oh, I can't think of his name. Who's actually, I think he's the president of the WHO now, right? So anyway, this guy George was talking, but then he was like, oh, well, you know, and I'm not anti-vaccine, and I had some anti-vaxxers approach me, you know, about, you know, helping them write a foreword to their book, and I said no because I believe it's science. I was like, so you know all this stuff about Anthony Fauci and how corrupt he is and his whole debacle with HIV, but you haven't done enough research into vaccines to know that they're actually very, very credible doctors and scientists who have done research to show that they're not safe and not effective. You know, and he even mentioned that he had an incident in his family where one of his family members became autistic after vaccine, and he knows about the CDC cover-up. And I'm like, yeah, you're like staunchly pro-vaccine? Dude, grow some balls and do some research. Because I think a lot of this too, whether there are people that are kind of like, they might know a little bit, but they don't want to go for it, is because they're actually afraid of being called anti-vaccine. And those people need to grow some balls. How come I have more balls than you and I'm a woman? I wrote in his comment section, I was like, you know what? Good info on Fauci, but you need to grow some balls and do some deep diving, you know? And, you know, if he can research all that, he can research the vaccine stuff. And if he's still singing the praises of vaccines, obviously he has not researched, okay? So, yeah, that's just very frustrating when I see people like that, because I know they're smart and I know that they're capable, but they don't really want to change that paradigm. And it's hard for a lot of people because so much of the vaccine paradigm is in our memories, is in our, you know, it's in literature, it's in movies, it's in books, it's being constantly drilled, you know, in our heads via sound bites all the time. And everything that anybody that's pro-vaccine knows, they just know the sound bites and stuff. I was one of those people. I had to actually go and see that there were no placebo studies, see that they weren't following the gold standard. I had to actually find doctors and scientists that were credible, that, you know, that were criticizing and you know, and gave really good arguments. And all the pro-vaccine people, they just know sound bites. They're just like, oh, vaccines save lives. And what about polio? What about smallpox? Oh, yeah, really, I never heard that before, right? So I had to do research on the actual history of smallpox and polio and all that stuff. If you want to, a good source is book is called Dissolving Illusions by Dr. Virstyne Henry. And she's actually an MD. She's smart. She has a physics degree and she's an MD. And she actually goes and teaches other doctors about the dangers of vaccines because they're not taught about that in medical school. So this is why you have a lot of parents and people that aren't doctors that can run circles around doctors and make them look stupid, you know, and then the doctors get all offended. Because the parents and anybody or any doctor that knows about the critical side of vaccines has had to do research on their own. And like I said, they're not taught that in medical school. So, you know, doctors look pretty foolish when they have somebody that's not medically trained that can run circles around them, and then they get all butthurt and then they cry, and then they have, you know how they deal with it? They have these stupid ass like marches for science where they go, we're marching for science because science is being attacked. And then, you know, they have like the yearly edition of like, what is it now? Scientific American and National Geographic, where they want to school people, and you know, it's dedicated to telling people that, you know, vaccines save lives and that we shouldn't question global warming, instead of actually dealing with the arguments and that people have. You know, that's how they scoot around it. You know, they pull out their PR department basically, right? And they cry and whine in the streets. You know, and I just had a caller for the last call-in show, and she was saying that she had a daughter that was sick with pneumonia, and she, you know, didn't want to vaccinate her kids, but that her daughter actually got a pneumonia from another vaccinated kid that was shedding. But plus, I mean, you're not supposed to vaccinate anybody. You're not supposed to get a vaccination when you're sick. It's supposed to prevent you from getting the disease. It even says in the literature you're not supposed to vaccinate somebody when they are sick, but they were mad that she wasn't vaccinated. So even if they wanted to vaccinate her, they wouldn't be able to, or they shouldn't anyway. But they were gonna vaccinate her, or they were mad because the parents didn't vaccinate her. And the fucking doctor unplugged her ventilator and was like, well, I guess we're gonna be here all night. I don't know what I would have done. I guess, you know, if I was a mom and I was scared, I probably would have been in shock, you know? But you know, like how in hindsight, you think that you would have done something, you know, differently had you been there. If you were like, if I was in that person's shoes, I would have beat his butt. But I wasn't in that situation, you know? And the lady was very strong because she still didn't vaccinate her kids, but she said that they messed her up so much that she had to go back home and research everything that she researched. But they didn't have any facts or any data. All they had was bullying. All that motherfucker did was go on and plug. He felt so strongly, right? If the science was on his side, why did he have to go into the room of a dying child on a ventilator and unplug it to scare the parents into vaccinating their child? This is why people hate doctors, okay? And I know not all doctors are bad. But there's a lot of doctors, a lot of stories I know like this. I mean, I was like, that's probably one of the most egregious, but I've heard and I've had friends that have had experiences with medical professionals who've done some pretty egregious things, okay? And this is why people don't trust the medical industry. And it's really sad that, you know, people feel this way, but it's just like, you know, even when I'm ranting about me, you know, visiting the hospitals, you know, I'm asking honest questions, you know, about what's going on and trying to use my common sense. And I'm made to feel like I'm gaslighted, right? And there are people in the comments that are just like, I hope they don't fire you, you know, and, you know, be safe. And I appreciate that. But I'm also at the point where if they fire me, they'd have to make something up about me, because honestly, I'm not breaking any policy about being like, you know, why, asking them questions like, why do I have to wear a mask when I'm healthy? Why can't I wear a cloth mask instead of a paper mask? The cloth mask is thicker. You know, why, you know, just stuff like that. But yet I'm always having to defend myself, and they try and make me think that I'm crazy for doing that. So even if they find my YouTube channel, they're gonna fire me because I'm doing something out of my own, on my own time, venting about the situation that's going on. You know, they're gonna fire me because of that. I'm not naming, I can understand if I'm naming the particular hospitals or saying where I work and if I'm associating myself with them, but I'm not stupid. So, I mean, they're gonna have to like, and then I'll just have to get a lawyer, because, you know, I want people to start thinking, and there are a lot of people that are afraid to speak. A lot of people that know this shit is bullshit, but they don't want to say anything because they don't want to look weird, like the guy that doesn't want to be called an anti-vaxxer. You know, but it means against vaccines. There are people that are like, oh no, don't call me that, but they're not pro-vaccine, but they don't want to be called that because, you know, people use it as a pejorative. But I just say own it, because it means against, anti means against vaccines, right? And then you just tell people why you are against vaccines. It's not that hard. I don't let that word have power over me. Because if you have the views that you have, you're inside your anti-vaccine, but you don't want to be called that, people are, they're going to know that. They're really going to have a field day, and they're going to call you that because they know that it makes you upset. So if you own it and you be like, I don't care, right? Then they can't hurt you with it. That's how I see it. But, you know, just little common sense things too about like, how come the homeless people aren't dead? They're not wearing masks. They're not using hand sanitizer. They don't have a sink. I was talking to this homeless person the other day, and he was like, yeah, this is some bullshit. He was like, we're not dead. And he was like, you know, the only people I see that are flipping out over this are the people in their houses, you know, all the way up, you know, that have like, you know, money or whatever. The people in the, like my apartment, nobody in my apartment complex it's probably a few hundred people that have, nobody's wearing a mask and nobody's sick and dying. Like nobody, right? So, I mean, and then other poor places that I've got, like the poor neighborhoods, it's sad because I feel like I have to go to the more well-off neighborhoods to get better produce, but they're the most stressful, annoying situations. So right now, I'm kind of avoiding that. I'm kind of avoiding going there because I don't want to deal with the people that are neurotic and uptight, you know? And I had somebody write me and say that, you know, she was unsubscribing to me because I was being selfish because I didn't wear a mask. And I was just like, okay, well, bye. You know, I don't really know what to say. You know, if you really, you know, first of all, it's like, if you're wearing a mask and you believe that they work, then why are you concerned about me wearing a mask? You're safe, right? You're safe, right? It's like the people that's like, my vaccines don't work unless you get them. Oh my God, everybody should be vaccinated. I'm like, all right, if she feels that way, you know, more power to you. Thanks for sticking around as long as you did, but I'm not changing my point of view. How about, you know, and then the people that was just like, oh, you're being selfish because you're immunocompromised. Well, how about all the immunocompromised people stay inside and the rest of us get back to work so we can save our economy? Why are we, you know, quarantining ourselves for a very small percentage of the population? Maybe you're the one that's selfish, right? Do you know that domestic abuse has gone through the roof, and so is child abuse? Suicide prevention hotlines. I was listening to a little snippet of Tucker Carlson, and he was saying that I think it was like a normal suicide hotlines usually gets 1,000 calls a day. Now they're getting 25,000+ a day because of this lockdown, right? like I keep saying, suicide, depression, domestic abuse, homelessness, like all this stuff is actually, the longer we stay locked down, it's going to have a worse impact in society than it is now. And like I said, there are people that are dying of other diseases, and there's a far greater number that could be preventable, but we're not, we're locking down the whole planet over it. Just people aren't using their common sense because they're being whipped into a state of panic and fear. And it's just getting ridiculous. I don't really, all I can do is make these videos and just tell people how I feel at the moment. Like, that's my only outlet right now to do that. Because it is good to know that there are other people that feel the same way. And when I try, it's so funny now, it's like we're being split into two groups, the mask and the unmasked. So now if I see somebody without a mask on, I know I can go up to talk to them. And if there's somebody that's on a mask and they're like, let's just social distance. Let's just do that. Because I really don't want anybody that's neurotic and that freaked out around me anyway. So I just give them their space. I'm just like, all right, whatever. And then I had somebody was like, how dare you? I'm asthmatic. And I don't find it funny. I don't know why people think I'm being funny. I'm like, well, I make jokes, but what I'm saying, I'm not doing it because, but anyway, I don't want to be like a slave. I don't know. I don't think that's funny. But somebody was like, how dare you? I'm asthmatic. I was like, but I'm asthmatic too. I'm asthmatic, right? So I was just like, see, I'll show you how asthmatic I am. I have an inhaler, right? The hallmark of an asthmatic. So they tried to pull that shit on me. But then when I came back with I'm asthmatic too, she was just, she didn't really have anything to say. And I was like, look, I worked on my asthma. I know how my immune system works. I know my triggers. And I'm not gonna be a slave to this. So you can either, do some research and work on yourself, or you can be scared the rest of your life and be afraid of everything. Literally, I was allergic to everything. I couldn't go around trees. I couldn't go around grass. I couldn't go around animals, pets, anything with fur. Mold. I couldn't eat a lot of stuff. I still have issues with food sensitivities and stuff that triggers. I have to use chemicals. Natural stuff with no chemicals. I don't use hand sanitizer. I'll go, and if people really freaked out, I'll go and I'll wash my hands in the room, but those still irritate me a little bit, the soaps, but it's not as bad as the hand sanitizer and the wipes. But this is how I know all this crazy shit about chemicals and all this shit, because I have to read a lot of stuff. I have to use salt-based deodorants, and I have to use all natural shit. Pretty much. Yeah. Even if I wear I like wearing mascara, and I like wearing, what do you call this? Oh, eyeliner. And I have a blush, but it's a natural blush. I can't do, I'll break out. If I wear eyeliner that's not natural, my eyes will start to hurt, really bad. Or same thing with mascara. I can probably get away with some MAC lipsticks, but a lot of that stuff I've always been crazy sensitive to stuff. And it's I've had to do a lot of work in order to be able to get over this so I can do things. Being able to stand in a patch of grass is actually a huge accomplishment for me, because there was a point in my life when I was a kid I wasn't able to do that. So, but I've worked on it. And I've taken the time out to work on it. Like I said, I've cut gluten out. I'm gonna do a video on asthma, actually, because this is kind of getting long. And somebody else in the comment asked me section, I think I had a couple people actually ask me, what did I do to get my asthma under control? So, I'm gonna make a video. I'm gonna stop this one. I'm gonna make another video just talking about that to kind of give people some direction on what they can do. All right, that's it, y'all. I'll talk to you later. Peace, truth, and love. Bye-bye.